Hey up everybody, and welcome back to the Audio Cycling YouTube channel, where today we're going to be taking a look at E3, where I need to get this out really quick because I'm setting off home in about 2 hours time to go home for my birthday, which is coincidentally on the same day as E3, so I get a nice little birthday present on the to watch, and hopefully I pick the right team for an even better birthday. But here is the parkour of E3. Obviously, it's sort of a mini Tour of Flanders. It's 209 kilometres long, plenty of cobble climbs, really characterised by the Paterberg-Arde-Quermont combination, which of course we'll see in a week's time, or just over a week's time, in the Tour of Flanders. We got the Kamelkbestraat. I've been trying to pronounce that. We've got the Tiekenberg as well in here, the Kappelenberg, Tyenberg earlier on. Lots of characteristics, lots of famous cobble climbs in here, and it's going to be a pretty tough day, especially since it's also worth noting it's going to be a probably wet day. It's not going to be particularly warm, and it's not going to be particularly sunny, so that's going to play into who we're going to be thinking of selecting. Obviously, also Pogacar isn't here because he's going to Paris Roubaix now, which is some pretty big news that broke out yesterday. Van der Poel is here. I think that realistically Van der Poel is a very good choice for most teams, given how his team looks. I don't think it looks particularly strong, his team, which means that Van der Poel's going to he's going to be isolated, and his best form of defence will be attack to go early, and I think he might go before 50 kilometres to go. I think he could pick up the 50, 20 and 10 kilometres to go checkpoints, sort of breakaway points as well, so I think Van der Poel's really good. Wout is the big question mark, because obviously we haven't seen him racing since Kuurne-Brussel-Kuurne. He's been an altitude camp, but Visma-Lease bike riders tend to do quite well coming down off an altitude camp. I mean, Jorgensen was a very good example pretty recently. So I think that Wout is a good choice, and if anybody is going to be able to go with Van der Poel when Van der Poel inevitably attacks, I think that Wout is certainly a person who could do that. Whether he'll hang on until the end, I don't know. Who knows how far he would have made it last year, because obviously he crashed on the Paterberg when he was trying to follow Van der Poel in the gutter. So I still think that Wout's definitely got a little bit of a question mark over him, but I think that he is a good choice, and he is going to be fairly safe. However, you might not want to go with him because of how he hasn't looked too great this year, but he has been at an altitude camp specifically to train for the Tour of Flanders and Roubaix and stuff, and E3 is going to be an important stepping stone in his preparation. De Lee, he crashed the other day at Brugge de Pau and honestly hasn't looked great this year. Pedersen was apparently ill after Paris before Milano-San Remo, that's why he wasn't too good there. But if it's wet, I think that Pedersen is going to be a good choice because he could follow Van der Poel and Van Aert, and I think it is possible to go with Van der Poel, Van Aert and Pedersen, and then just go with 4 credit riders to fill out the rest of your team. So that's certainly a decent... Oh my god. Go away. Binny, probably not. Jorgensen, I think, is interesting as well. His avenue for success would be that he's going to have to be in some sort of second group and then probably go solo off of that, if maybe Wout's in there. I mean, who knows, he might even work for Wout. I don't think that would be a good move. I think realistically they should be in like a co-leadership sort of scenario. Maybe Jorgensen attacks early and Wout can sit on Van der Poel, that sort of thing. So I think Jorgensen's going to be a dangerous person for them to get into some moves up the road. Alaphilippe, probably not. But no, realistically I think it'll be Jorgensen and Wout. I think the more people they add in there, the more complicated it gets. Ganna I like. He was obviously super strong in Milano-San Remo. He goes pretty good over wet conditions, but the climbs definitely don't suit him that much. Ganna seems to definitely do better on the Paris-Roubaix style of courses, but I still think that he's worthwhile considering because he should be a leader for Ineos Grenadiers. Also Tarling I would give a shout out to as well, but both of them are obviously in incredible form, and when you've got incredible form, you can really do some fantastic things. Kung, he's also got a pretty decent history of this race. I think he was inside the top 10 last year. He might not have been, but anyway, the point is that he's also very good at when it comes to wet conditions. So Kung is nice and safe. as is Michael Matthews, obviously 4th place in Milano Sanremo. He's good in wet conditions. Remember back to the Tour of Flanders last year, which was very bad. He was going to finish in 2nd place, wasn't he? But then he deviated and Mazart and he got relegated. But Matthews is obviously good in wet conditions, as is Valence, I would say. No offence, Mayus, Mohoric and Paulus, they just haven't looked that great. Valens and Pollitt are going to be leading up UAE Team Emirates with Pogacar's absence. So I think that they are both very good choices. They were both inside the top 10 in this race last year. Valens was, I think, top 5. So I think both of these are good choices. I slightly prefer Valens to Pollitt, but just because he seems to fare on the climbs a bit better, I'd say Pollitt certainly struggles a little bit more and is better in kind of like Ghana in a Roubaix setting. So Valens for me gets a little bit of an edge for me. Schoins and Stuyven I do like, but I feel like they are going to be going fairly all in for Pedersen. Realistically, he is their best shout at doing well in this race. These guys are both very good in the wet conditions, and I think Lidl-Trek will be looking to try and get on the podium for this race. And whether that comes from Pedersen being able to follow Van der Poel, or whether these two work to try and bring that move back, I don't know. But I think that realistically they might end up just being domestique, so maybe somebody like Trentin could be better, because Trentin was top 10 in Sanremo and will probably be leading Tour de Pro cycling, maybe alongside Alaphilippe. But I think Trentin's usually fairly safe for this race, although last year he was like 22nd. The 18 credit riders, Abrahamsen I do like. He is also very good when it comes to wet weather, and he should be leading this team again, but it's just very risky. He's 18 credits now. He used to be 8 credits last year, and that's certainly a big price tag for a guy I'm not fully certain in his capabilities of going up against the big players in the sport. But if he gets up the road early, I think that he's going to be a really good one. Milano, of course, won in Brugge de Pin yesterday. That absolutely horrific finale where everybody pretty much crashed. Tiller possibly as well. You know, him and Abrahamsen could be top 20. The 16 credit riders, Lazcano, bit of a revelation last year in one-day races. I think that Lazcano is a little bit risky because we haven't seen too much of his form this year, but he's a guy who's really focusing on the Tour of Flanders, so therefore he could very well just be turning it on in this race and really focusing his form for this next week. So if Lazcano is going to be good at any point, it's going to be now, and he'll be a good differential if you're looking for somebody else to try and really kind of launch yourself up the rankings a bit more. Somebody safer, I'd say, would be Piffy. I think, Piffy I was actually looking at Roubaix yesterday. Piffy is like, considering how young he is very good over these tough races, and he's got a fast finish. So in the event where he's in a small group at the end, that could be the difference between a 10th place and a 6th place, for example. And I think that Piffy at 16 credits is pretty good. He was looking, for me, pretty strong in Sanremo, considering that he crashed or he went into the barriers and then fought his way back over to the Cipressa and then was working between the Cipressa and the Poggio for whoever his team leader was. And I think that Piffy could be a really good one for me. Turnison will be the leader for Astana. He's trying to get the UCI points in here, obviously. Tergis Vatsek, again, another one for the Lidl-Trek kind of contingency. Tergis, Van Baarle and Van Hestel aren't really doing it for me. I'd say that Piffy, Turnison or Lazcano are better choices for me. For 14 credit riders, Albanese was top 10 in this race last year, so maybe he could do the same again. His form hasn't been that great this year. I can't remember what races he's really been doing, which is really a testament to what kind of results he's been getting. But I think it was very similar last year. He kind of came out of nowhere, and riders can really do that. They can just come out of nowhere and do really good. Van Asbroek is good in wet conditions. Do you remember that? The Roubaix, which Colbrelli won, he was inside the top 10, so he's obviously good in the wet. Vermeersch possibly, but UAE seem fairly set on it being Valens and Pollitt who are their leaders, so Vermeersch possibly not, although he is also very good in the wet, as is, very similar, because he was very good in that Colbrelli win in 2021 in the Tour of Flanders. Fred Wright I do like as well. He was top 10 in Sanremo, so he's obviously in some sort of decent form at the moment, and I think he was about the top 20 last year, although he didn't have very good kind of form last year. And I think that Fred Wright has looked decent this year and, in all honesty, could could, in my opinion, be a top 10. So I quite like Fred Wright for this race. Askey, I think he'll just be working for Stefan Kung, but you never quite know. Maybe he could be a bit of a surprise. The other 12 credit riders aren't really doing it for me. Maybe Haller, he has, I think he's done well in this race in the past, or maybe it was Dwarsdorf Landrin, maybe it was, I can't remember, but I think Haller has definitely done well in this race in the past, maybe like a top 20. Berkmo's, Canal possibly, but realistically I'm not looking at the 12s that much. The 10 credit riders, you got Hullegard, he's good over a tough day. Hageners is decent, he might get assist points on Wout van Aert as well, so maybe he could get like a top 30 in an assist points, it's not bad. Ploymers, again, he's quite good over a wet day. We saw that in Tirreno on multiple occasions. Tarling, as I mentioned earlier, is in fantastic form at the moment. You just have to look at Paris-Nice to see that. And I think that Tarling's a really interesting option. Obviously, he was top 20 in Flanders last year, and that was on his debuts. And I think arguably Tarling is stronger this year than he was last year. So I think that he's certainly one worthwhile considering. And at 10 credits, that's quite a good value pick. The other 10s for me, and probably I feel like you got enough there with Tarling, Ploymers, Hageners, and Hullegard. But 8s, again, not that much to really be going at. You might be looking at guys to get in the breakaway. Meyerhofer tends to get in the break quite a bit. Soudal Quickstep don't have a great team here. Maybe they put somebody like Hill Helders into the breakaway. Fedorov, usually pretty good in one-day races or as a bit of a sprinter. So he's certainly not bad. Maddie Mikkels was just third in Brugge de Pas. Possibly he could hang on for a top 30. Alex Segart, we haven't seen him do that many one-day races, of this sort of calibre, but he has done some this year, and he's been just okay, kind of inside the top 20, but this is a big step up, so that's not to say that because he finishes top 20 in, Norca course or whatever, that he's going to be finishing inside the top 10 of E3, but I think that with Deli a little bit shaky for me, I think that Segart could certainly be an interesting one, and Sam Watson as well. Obviously he was top 10 in the Omloop Het Nieuwsblad. He comes from near where I live, and I can tell you that he will be used to riding in pretty bad weather, so Watson as well will be an interesting one to keep an eye on. Balanexia was top 20 I think or top 25 in Milano San Remo. Possibly he can get a decent result for you in this day. You might go with just assist points on any number of riders. The Alpecin boys, for example, most likely for Mathieu van der Poel. But Kelland O'Brien, possibly. He's a couple of years ago when he was in the break, he's done good. Sojberg. Pedersen is good in bad conditions. Danish champion. So obviously he'll be pretty good in bad weather. And Decathlon, in my opinion, don't have a big leader, so you never know. Maybe he could be a decent one. Ivan Romeo, tall, but he's tall kind of time trialist, but has got in the break quite a few times in cobbled races, and maybe he might either get in the break or find his way into a top 30 position. Possibly. Jonas Ruch is usually good over bad conditions as well. Connor Swift, very, very much likewise. And yeah, honestly, Taco van der Horn to get the breakaway. The 6 credit riders for me just aren't that great. There's nobody really screaming out at me. So maybe if you see somebody, put it in the comment section to help us all out. And then the 4 credit riders, Brunel has been in good form recently, and I think he should be getting him a breakaway. If not, he probably won't do too much, but he has been winning a couple of smaller races recently, so he's clearly in good form, and I think he might get him a break. But I think realistically what I would recommend you do is to pick Sam Gaze and Johan Pryce Peterson and just get the 4 credit Alpecin guys in there, just because of the likelihood of Van der Poel finishing on the podium of this race is very high. So picking the Alpecin guys is just a really safe choice for you to be going with. And other than them, you're looking at guys to get in the breakaway. Maybe you might go with Suterlin if you think that Michael Matthews could finish on the podium of this race. Weisstoffer obviously could get in the breakaway as well, like he did in Milano San Remo, so that's one to consider, but that's my sort of thinking right now. This is my team at the moment. I've got the Wout van Aert and Mathieu van der Poel duo. Piffy and Fred Wright, and then 2 4-credit riders. If I was to do something different, like I mentioned earlier, I could definitely go with Pedersen, and then I'd probably go with a 4-credit rider like that. And that's a pretty good team, because that's probably the top 3 favourites for this race. So that's really safe, and I might certainly go with something like that just because it's nice and safe. You could go with Jorgensen instead, and I'd probably go with, well, I guess Ivan Romeo, but honestly the 6s just aren't really that enticing to me. Or I go one lower, in which case I'd probably go with Ganna or Wellens, and then I'd probably put Romeo up to an 8, in which case I'd probably go with Segart or Watson, let's say. Or if I was to go one step further, I would go with a 20-credit rider, maybe Pollitt, and then I'd get Tarling in the team as well. Or you don't have to go with Wout. You could say I don't like his chances. I could you could take those 4 credits off, and then you could put those onto Pollitt and get yourself Jorgensen. Or if you just wanted Wellens or 22-credit rider, then you could put those onto. You could maybe put them onto Tarling to get yourself a 12-credit rider, but I'd say that Tarling's probably better than most of these guys. Or you could put them onto Gaze and Pedersen to get a 6. But I'd say probably just leave the Alpecin guys. I'd take Van der Poel, Gaze and Pedersen and just fiddle around with the rest of it. And that's my advice for E3. So let me know what you're thinking in the comment sections down below. Though I won't be doing a video for Gent-Wevelgem because I am not taking this setup home with me over my birthday. So you just have to go without a Gent-Wevelgem. Apologies, but realistically it should be a bit of a sprinter's affair now that Pogacar's not going. So that's at least some very basic advice to be taking. And but I will be back for Dwars-Door-Vlaanderen. So look out for a video when that happens, and yeah, put all your teams in the comment sections down below, and all that is left to say is to stay safe out there, and I will see you in the next video. Salut!